Hello there. We all know that Esther Rantzen is well known for starting that extraordinary charity Childline, but perhaps what's less well known is that she has more recently launched a new charity aimed at older people called Silverline. It came about because she encountered a really remarkable man called Bob Lowe, and we interviewed him. And we were lucky enough not only to talk to him about how he got involved in Silverline, but to his daughters, Linda and Martine, as well.
Quite simply, I'd written a poem to send up to Esther, and she saw it and decided that she'd like me to go and have a chat with them, and I did up at the post office tower when they had a launch, and really that's how I got involved. After the tower I went back to talk to little church groups about Silverline, learnt more and more as I went along the line, and so it grew from there. The next thing is they wanted somebody to do a television interview on Sports Relief, and then a little while later it went really crazy, with the newspapers wanting to do an interview, the radios wanting to do an interview, and Australian television. And then I was in the deep end, and I'm still in the deep end, floundering all the time.
You don't flounder at all, Bob. You love the deep end, really, don't you?
I've got to admit, sneakingly, it's quite fun.
So Bob's done a lot of radio and TV work since becoming involved in Silverline, and I was really interested to know how that felt for Linda and Martine. Now, I am not a professional filmmaker, and you are just about to see how unprofessional I am, because we recorded the interview here in my office, and I realised at about this point that the angle of the camera meant that Linda was cut off, or half of her was cut off. So any minute now, you're going to see my head appear in front of the screen of the camera and move it so that we can see Linda. And I promise that will be the only time you see me at all. How does it feel for you?
Well, it's a strange feeling, I suppose. You begin to feel, how the family of a film star must feel. There's this person that everybody knows, but you're sort of standing on the outside looking in, knowing that, well, that's my dad. How can he be famous and we're not famous?
Any minute now, courtesy of Women's Weekly, you will be. It's all about to change.
I think after Sports Relief, when the Sports Relief piece went out, and it really was very, very emotive, and I must admit, at that point, I was slightly concerned that there would be, because you know what social media is like, there would be, and Dad was all over Twitter and etc. And I thought, oh bloody hell, here we go. We're likely to get a load of grief because here's this lonely old man crying on TV, and what about you, his family? Where are his family? But there was none of that. It was so much to my surprise, they did home in on the fact that this isn't about not having family around, but it is about the fact that, when you shut the door, you're on your own. And what really brought it home was Gogglebox a week later. That was just, good heavens.
Yeah.
Because it quite clearly affected the people on Sports Relief when it was shown. It quite clearly affected people in the audience. But then to see the Gogglebox piece, where people were crying, but more importantly, people saying, "Oh yes, my mum had Alzheimer's." There was a huge amount of empathy for the situation. People could relate, and that's what it was all about. It was relating to it.
Bob's obviously been very open about how lonely and unhappy he's been since Kath died. And I was really interested to know how difficult that was for him to be so open about something that's really so difficult.
No, I didn't feel brave at all. I think that when you have a person close to you who slowly goes through dementia and then Alzheimer's, you don't really know how to handle it. And there's nobody to tell you. You don't understand it. You go to the Alzheimer's Society, and bless their hearts, every case is different. and therefore they cannot tell you, look, this is what is going to happen. And I try and talk about it in that vein.
Bob clearly still feels very keenly in his distress about losing Kath, and I was interested to know whether that was difficult for Linda and Martine when they see their father so upset.
I suppose we've got used to it. I mean, yes, it was distressing to begin with, because you see the distress, we then feel guilty, because we feel that, oh, we should be there, we should be there doing, being, but you know that you can't. But we have, yes, over the time we've now got used to it, and we know
the other thing, if I may come in here and tell you about that television programme, I had assumed that when the crew came in they'd be saying something right, cue you, action, and it's nothing like that. I sat down there were 2 cameras in front of me and the blokes were pottering around, and I said, well, what happens? And they said, oh, don't worry about us for the moment, just talk about your life with Kath. And so I just talked, and it just happened. There was no acting.
But that's I suppose the power of it. Everyone could see it was truly, genuinely how you were feeling.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you say that people understood that, and that even in the closest families, because that's another very big thing, is that lonely doesn't mean alone, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I mean, there are a lot of people that live in London, and they're lonely, and that's.
I can remember as a teenager my dad saying the loneliest place in the world is in the middle of London. I couldn't understand what the hell he was talking about.
No, that's right.
Any big city, you can be very lonely in a big city, can't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Clearly Silverline has become a very big part of Bob's life. But my last question to all 3 of them was how it felt for all of them to be involved in Silverline.
Well, I'm directly involved, what does it mean to me? I get a lot of satisfaction out of knowing what is happening, that there are a lot of people now ringing in. I want to say over 250,000 people ring, and I feel that I've had a little bit of part of that, and I get a lot of satisfaction from it. It's also a lot of fun.
Martine, what about you?
I feel very proud of what Dad has achieved. And I think it's taken him some time to realise just what he has achieved. And that's very, it makes you very proud that, I think to a large extent Dad has made a difference to a lot of people.
I think that's absolutely
quite, by mistake.
Unintentionally.
Really. Unintentionally, yes.
Yes.
What about you, Linda?
I reiterate that, but it has also given us a certain amount of peace of mind, knowing that Dad is not actually sitting at home, looking out of the window, staring at nothing, which is fantastic.
For me, to go from a bloke in the plastics industry all my life to suddenly doing this is quite a shock.